How's it going, folks? My name is Jacob and welcome back to the channel. I'm super excited today because I finally got a letter back from Nintendo in the mail. You see, a couple weeks ago, I mailed them my ideas for alternate DLC costumes in Smash Bros, and they finally responded to me. So I guess it's time to crack it open and see what they said. What? Over the course of its 6 entries, the Smash Bros. Series has featured alternate costumes for a few of its iconic fighters. These visual references allow the Smash team to call back to specific characters' histories outside of their attacks and animations. Beginning with Brawl on the Wii, Wario's ults were split between recolors of his WarioWare biker outfit as well as his classic plumber outfit. Despite their universal appeal, alternate costumes have only been given to 10 characters in Smash's enormous roster over the 12 years since their introduction. 12 years? God, I'm old. With Smash 4's introduction of paid downloadable content, or DLC, to the series, many fans have speculated that the alternate costumes could be made available as optional aesthetic bonuses. This feature has gained a lot of traction in modern games like Fortnite, where billions of dollars worth of profit are made annually despite the game being free to play. So let's say Nintendo came to the table and demanded a slice of that pie. If alternate costumes became a reality through paid DLC, what would that look like for each fighter? Well, that's what I'm here for, silly! Today we're going to speculate on possible alternate costumes for each character in Smash Ultimate. Now obviously this list, and therefore this video, would be far too long if I included the entire roster, and it still hasn't even fully been revealed as of me filming this. So I'm going to be splitting this concept into a multi-part series, with one video for each Smash Bros. Entry. Logically, this means that we'll be starting with the game that started it all, Smash Bros. 64 and its original roster of 12. Oh, and one more note before we get started. Many of the characters in Smash have entire lists of alternate costumes that they could have on their own. The costume picks that I've made for this video will be based on my aesthetic preferences, as well as my opinion of the reference. So I better not see any comments in that comment section saying Cat Mario deserves a slot. No! You get out of here!
Let's go!
Let's start with the iconic Red Plumber, Mr. Video Game himself. While Mario already has his builder and wedding suits to reference Super Mario Maker and Super Mario Odyssey respectively, there are still so many possible candidates. Just look at the enormous list of costumes in Mario Odyssey. This dude's packing all the Supreme and Gucci you can imagine. So throughout the legacy of gaming's most iconic character, which costume is most deserving of a coveted Smash inclusion? My personal pick would have to go to Mario's tropical outfit from Super Mario Sunshine. Shorten those sleeves, add a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses to the pudgy Italian, and bam, instant profit. Sunshine is not nearly as beloved as some of Mario's other platforming adventures, so this costume will give that warm Delfino charm a second chance in the sun. Plus, the floral design is universally known to represent summer, so there's no chance of the message getting lost in localization. Now look, I live in Canada. I understand what it's like to live in a country with barely any warmth and barely any beaches. Half the time it's either too hot to go outside, or too humid to go outside, or it's just this. So for a fellow like me, whenever I get to see some Hawaiian patterns on a shirt, I know I get to leave my frozen wasteland for at least a little while. The first member of the DK crew has quite a lot of history to work with over his 30 plus years of existence. He got his start in the arcade days as a damsel distressing villain, but over time he got Me Too'd out of his criminal life and became a laid-back, fun-loving monkey. So this leaves us with an important question. Do you represent the bad boy days or the modern era? Which costume is most fitting for the main gaming simian? Well, this DK is actually the modern DK's grandfather, and I don't think it would be appropriate to convict the child for his progenitor's crimes. I think Donkey Kong's wizard costume from Mario Party 2 would be fitting of his laid-back, goofy personality that we see in the country games. Now, it doesn't necessarily represent anything from the Donkey Kong series, but it does anchor DK as a member of many Mario spin-offs, an identity which has been embraced for decades since the country series kinda collapsed. It might seem weird to include this long-forgotten relic of a design, but I want a variety of references in this series, and you'll just have to wait to see my choices in future videos. The Hyrulean hero has appeared in many reincarnations over the Legend of Zelda franchise, so we have plenty of designs to pick from. Smash Bros. Ultimate made it clear that they wanted each Triforce fighter to represent a different game. Link is from Breath of the Wild, Zelda's from Link Between Worlds, Ganondorf and Young Link are from Ocarina of Time, and Toon Link is from the Wind Waker timeline. Hell, even Sheik takes some Breath of the Wild inspired cues from the Sheikah, despite being absent from the Zelda canon for 22 years. With this in mind, we just have to look at the Zelda games that haven't been represented yet for a little inspiration. And with few other notably different designs, I think the best candidate for Smash representation would be the Skyward Sword version of Link. Specifically his Skyloft outfit. It's a drastic design change from the iconic green tunic, and even from the champion's tunic in some respects, but this version of Link is very cozy and comfortable. It breaks from the image of the hero of the skies, and it reminds us that Link starts most of his adventures as an inexperienced teenager. Come on, what teenager would be caught dead without a comfy pair of sweats? In all seriousness, Skyward Sword is often disregarded in the Zelda discussion, and with Switch port rumors, this could actually be a nice tie-in to cross-promote the games. So, Samus. Samus raises one of the first big problems in this hypothetical exercise. You see, her alternate colors are already references of a variety of her different power suits throughout the Metroid series. If I were to just pick a different suit to be modeled, Samus would have two nearly identical alternate costumes, which wouldn't really make her new paid-for alternate feel all too special. Now, I'm not a Metroid guy, but I think the best way to remedy this issue would be to replace one of Samus's alts and use that as the basis for a brand new costume. In my opinion, the most likely candidate for this exchange would be the Fusion suit from Metroid Fusion. It's got a slightly different form factor given the lack of the shoulder testes, and it would provide representation for the 2D era of the Metroid series. In its place, the Phazon Enhancement Device, or PED suit, is already so similar looking to her generic Various suit, so we could probably make an alternate coloring for it. Just change the colors of her default suit, modify the look of the shoulder nuts, and the Fusion suit can have its own unique model. There, the series I have no knowledge of is done. Next! So before I continue, yes, I know I skipped over Dark Samus. Can you really blame me though? Don't you worry, Echo Fighters will be covered at a later date. Moving along, the design of Nintendo's most beloved dinosaur has remained fairly consistent over his appearances in games. Sure, sometimes he's a pirate, sometimes he's a soccer player, but most of the time this little creep is a nudist. Does he have no shame? Two of the few games that actually change Yoshi's default appearance are Yoshi's Woolly and Yoshi's Crafted World. Yarn and Crafted Yoshi have both appeared in Smash before, but they mostly resemble the default dino, making the alternate appearance much less of a celebration of the character and more of a, yeah sure, just give him that. This is where the Paper Mario series comes in handy. The Thousand Year Door features the Yoshi Kid, a radical young dude with a rebellious hairstyle and a colored diaper. This edgy design would give us a nice contrast to the bubbly Yoshi we're all familiar with, while keeping the reference canon to one of the Mario series. Yeah, it isn't much of a difference, but we're basically grasping at straws here. Yoshi, my guy, just put some clothes on for once, jeez! Kirby's kind of in a weird class of his own. He technically gets a new costume every time he inhales an enemy, but how would this enemy costume stack with Kirby's inhale in Smash? It wouldn't, don't even think about it. I've tried to work this out for over an hour and now my brain feels as smooth as Kirby. Instead, I've got an ambitious idea that could actually work as a fairly clever workaround. In many of the Kirby games, the second player can take control of another character who has nearly identical powers and traits as the Pink Puff himself. Multiple jumps, air puff attacks, and a pseudo inhale, this second character is practically another Kirby, just without the copy ability. And which character would best represent the rounded shape and hurtbox of the existing Kirby? Why, Gooey, of course! This would be a really neat way for the Smash team to represent an old character analogous to Kirby and reference the series past, all in one fell swoop. Am I a f***ing genius or what? Wait, what do you mean he doesn't have feet? Ugh, can we just pretend?
It's go time!
Fox is somewhat difficult to analyze. In most of his games, he never leaves his trusty R-Wing or Landmaster, and his uniform's design is pretty universal throughout the Star Fox series. Couple this with a conservative sprinkling of Star Fox games over the last 2 decades, and you have a character with very little to work with. I mean, if he's cool with never washing that uniform, I guess I'll just let him be. However, there is one somewhat obscure game that alters his iconic design, at least to the point of being different enough to make an alternate costume out of. Star Fox Assault's take on Fox and Friends is notably more space piloty than his usual army getup, making it an ideal choice for an alt. This suit would serve as a break from Fox's normal tradition, which is to be slightly redesigned based on the newest version of Star Fox 64, and finally give a nod to the rare spin-offs of his series. Also, while it may not be canonical, I'd love if they would add a pair of sunglasses to this alt as a nod to Fox's father, James McCloud. He's a pretty important motivator to Fox in his home series, and the glasses would be a worthy tribute to his furry lineage. The face of the Pokemon Empire is not shy about playing dress-up for various spin-off games. He's appeared in several different promotional costumes, there's that cosplay Pikachu from Black and White, and even Pikachu Libre is already in the game. There is no shortage of Pikachus that we can choose from. But think about this for a moment. What is Pikachu's most iconic appearance in recent years? I mean, it was made into a mainstream movie after all. I'm absolutely shocked that his Detective Pikachu costume wasn't included this time around, especially with Ultimate launching half a year before the live-action movie. On top of being a reference to the Detective Pikachu spin-off game that I completely forgot existed, it would pay homage to Pokemon's most relevant non-gaming experience in recent years. And while the legal work might make this a little more difficult than I had hoped, I would love to include some lines from Ryan Reynolds himself, adding further into the movie costume gimmick. While he's appeared in less games than his older brother, Luigi's had just as many different designs that could be chosen from. Out of his hundreds of appearances, many in the Smash community have made one particular costume his most iconic alt, Mr. L from Super Paper Mario. The black outfit and mask really contrast the rest of Luigi's normal attire, and with its inclusion in the fan mod Project M, the idea of a Mr. L alt has resonated with Smash fans for years. So naturally there's no way I could pick another costume. My pick goes to Luigi. Yes, he's a silly new inclusion from Luigi's Mansion 3, he doesn't have the history behind him, blah blah blah. I don't care. Luigi's Mansion is the single series that places Luigi front and center over Mario, making it the rare outlet for Nintendo to develop their precious green boy. Luigi is gross and goofy, and I love it. They could even add to this alt by replacing some of Luigi's lines and sound effects with Luigi's. Come on Nintendo, I know you want my money. You got my wallet, you just gotta commit.
Okay.
You're probably gonna hear this line quite a lot coming up, so here you go. I'm not much of an Earthbound guy. I won't pretend like I know a lot about the series. I know of Ness and Lucas, and that's it. So I had to do some digging through fan sites and wikis to come to my conclusion, and I think I found a neat costume that would be instantly recognizable to Mother fans everywhere. As in, I picked the most stereotypical costume I could think of. At the beginning of Earthbound, before setting off for his bizarre adventure, Ness is shown in pajamas. While they aren't anything special, they have been featured in Project M, much like the Mr. L costume from earlier. So this is far from the first time that the PJs have been considered for Smash alts. Outside of the t-shirt short baseball hat combo, this is Ness's most iconic appearance to both Mother fans and Smash players, making it the ideal fit between the two fan bases. Plus, it's not like we're ever gonna see another game in this series, am I right? Okay, say it with me now. I'm not much of an F-Zero guy. I don't hate F-Zero or anything, but the series has laid dormant longer than I've had disposable income. It just seems like whenever I think of F-Zero, the only thing that comes to mind is how long it's been since GX. My opinions aside, Captain Falcon and F-Zero are still highly beloved among Nintendo fans, with Smash 64 essentially developing his entire personality and flair. Falcon Punch, Falcon Kick, Raptor Boost, the knee, none of this stuff is actually from his home series. In recent times, I think it would be more fair to argue that the Captain is more of a Smash character than an F-Zero character. However, if there's anything that I do actually know about the F-Zero series, it's that Captain Falcon has an evil clone named Blood Falcon. If Sakurai and the Smash team are finished developing Echo Fighters, then giving Cap a Blood Falcon themed alt would be a nice nod to his racing game origins. I'd much rather see Blood Falcon as his own separate character, but he's kind of been shafted to the side for almost 2 decades, and as each Smash game goes forward, I see this possibility getting less and less likely. This visual reference is the very least they could do to keep F-Zero on life support just a little longer. The balloon Pokemon gives us another little bit of trouble. As a Pokemon, Jigglypuff is barely ever seen in any costumes, and most of her existing alts are just Smash originals that give her different hats. Coming up with an idea for the second Pink Puff would definitely be difficult, if it wasn't for the Pokemon anime. In one episode, the main conflict revolves around a Ditto which can mimic the body of other Pokemon but has trouble copying their face. This results in a cute and goofy looking Ditto-faced Pokemon, and this specific gag has been referenced in plenty of Pokemon media, including among others the trading card game. So how does this relate to Jigglypuff? Well, both characters are small, pink, and cute, so matching the face to the body would actually work pretty well from a design point of view. Jigglypuff is also sort of a joke character in the Smash roster, making this a more comedic costume to fit her role. Plus, can you really think of anything better? And there you have it, my 12 alternate costume ideas for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, covering the first 12 fighters from Smash 64. Tune in next time when we're going to be talking about Melee and... Oh, wait a minute. That wasn't the letter from Nintendo. Oh, that was from my parents. Okay, let's see what Nintendo actually said. Thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun scripting and editing this video, and I hope that came through in the final product. So which alts would you choose for the original Smash 12? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate it if you boop that like button, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this in the future. Smash alts on Melee is definitely coming soon, but until next time folks, take care.